Welcome to CenterState CEO's semi-monthly podcast, Talk CNY, presented by NBT Bank.
On Talk CNY, you get an inside look at the people, planning, and projects moving Central New York forward.
I'm Andrew Fish, Senior Vice President of Member and Business Experience at CenterState CEO, Central New York's leading business leadership and economic development organization.
And I'm Kate Hammer, Business Coach and Member at CenterState CEO. We are your hosts for Talk CNY. Take a moment right now to subscribe in your listening app for new episodes every other Wednesday.
Most people care and they want to make a difference. And what we've realized, and we often say to them now, is alone, we do what we can. United, we do more.
This month, we are going to focus on giving back and the impact that the business and philanthropic community has on our region. On this episode of our podcast, we welcome United Way of Central New York's President, Nancy Eaton. Nan, thank you for being here.
It's great to be with you.
I know that August is a very busy month for you, so I really appreciate you taking the time. Looking forward to the conversation.
Me too.
So for those who aren't as familiar with the United Way or with you, we would love for you to just tell us about yourself, tell us about United Way, and just tell us what United Way does to serve this community.
Well, I'll say that for me, I grew up on Long Island, so I'm a New York State resident initially, and then went to college in Buffalo and came to Syracuse a number of years ago. Had my kids here, and I love this community. I think sometimes those of us who didn't grow up here may even appreciate it more than those who did. So I'm a huge fan of Central New York, and I plan to spend the rest of my life here. United Way here has a wonderful history that many people don't know, which is we are a local not-for-profit. So while we're part of a worldwide network, we have a local board of directors, people who are part of us, who give to us. The money is used here for folks in this community. But we began on the steps of City Hall on June 18th, 1917.
Oh, wow.
When the mayor of Syracuse brought together 100 community members to present what he called his war plan for fighting poverty and need. Right? So after World War I, imagine the times, right? And I think he wisely understood that government alone can't do it all. And he was seeing need everywhere. And so he asked these community members to go throughout the community and speak to their neighbors, to their friends, to their colleagues, and invite them to invest whatever they could in one pot of money that could then be used to help people. Right? Meet needs with whatever folks needed help. And, and so believe it or not, in 1917, his goal was to raise $600,000, which is still a lot of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this community in 3 weeks donated over $1.1 million.
Oh, my goodness.
And that's how this United Way began. So 1917, 4 years later, it was officially formed, incorporated as the Syracuse Community Chest.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1972, we became the United Way of Central New York. So this community has a long history of thinking about doing things together. And so what we've done since the very inception of this organization is brought people in the community together to think about need, to continually monitor need, and then to think about how we can sort of mobilize resources and people to help meet those needs. So now, today, as we're sitting here, we, through the community's contributions, are funding 65 different programs at 26 local human service organizations, in addition to providing what we call support grants for some smaller organizations that are doing really great work. They may not have as long of a history or a track record, but we want to help them get there. We coordinate volunteers. In fact, we were delighted to have our Day of Caring on August 3rd, where 1,000+ people in this community all volunteer in one day.
That is so cool.
Dozens and dozens and dozens of locations. And, volunteerism is a huge piece of what we do, but we like to say we want to make it easy to make a difference. And so if you care about people and you want to help people in this community, we would love to partner with you. So whether that's you have time to share, or whether you want to connect us to efforts that people are getting underway, that they think we could perhaps bring more people to the table, or we might have data. As I said, we monitor community need. But we have coined the phrase, United We Do More. And so I think that's really the case. Our wonderful marketing officer, Ray Manassa, says, alone we do what we can, united we do more. And
I
so
love that.
that's really what United Way is all about.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm shocked at that origin story and the level of resource that was brought to bear in 1917. That is amazing. Well, we'd already mentioned it, August, a big month for United Way, and you talked about the Day of Caring, but tell us a little bit about the ways in which, not just that, but the other initiatives are having an impact. What are some of the stories you can share about things that are happening in our community right now with the support of the United Way?
Well, I think probably what most people would want to know, and I said we monitor needs.
Mm-hmm.
So right now in this community, as in communities in many places in the country, we're seeing homeless numbers unlike anything we've seen in over a decade. So before the pandemic, we as a community really were doing an extraordinary job of reducing homelessness every year. So unlike many cities where homelessness was increasing, it was decreasing here, and it had been for a number of years. So we're really proud that the United Way is the home of the region's continuum of care, which is called the Housing and Homeless Coalition. And so we coordinate through our team the housing homeless services and that network of providers for 3 counties, so Onondaga, Oswego, and Cayuga counties. So as I said, before the pandemic, homeless numbers were down, and we were rapid rehousing is the model we use. So the most important thing is to get people into housing, right? The answer to homelessness isn't a job, it's a place to live. Right. And so unfortunately, the situation now is that many of our families who have found themselves homeless in the last year, in fact, 75% of those families have never ever been homeless before. Wow. They are working, but the costs of things went up so much, including an average 30% increase in rent. The boat tipped over. And so folks who've never ever thought about being in this type of situation are, and unfortunately, affordable housing is really hard to find. So unlike previous years where we would get them rapidly rehoused and then help them do the other pieces, get a job, all of those things, we're struggling to do that as a community right now. So that's certainly a challenge. And the other thing I would say, 2 other needs I would sort of highlight if we're thinking about what's happening right now. One is food. And so, as we said, costs have risen, right? And many of our working families just aren't able to make ends meet. And so we're seeing food insecurity numbers higher than during the pandemic. And so that's a challenge. And we as a community, as we always do, are thinking about how do we meet that challenge. And then the other thing I would highlight is mental health. So we know across the board, the pandemic really, I think, highlighted for so many people feelings maybe they had deep down. And then for some people, they suffered loss. Sure. Some people are still struggling with things. So we're really looking at those as some of our big issues right now. And we're also looking at thinking about how we can bring people together in the community to think about those issues. I mean, that's one of the things we're really always proud to do is think about bringing people together. We have, as I said, companies and organizations that really historically support us, and they allow their employees to do that. Some match their employee contributions, which is amazing. And so we'll give out a few awards to some exceptional partners and companies who year in, year out are standing with us as we think about meeting needs in the community.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds like a great event. Nancy, you've mentioned partnerships, business collaborations, the way that you've been working with businesses in the community. Can you talk a little bit more about how that works and maybe even give us some examples, some successes?
Yeah, as I said, companies often, and we're grateful, do workplace campaigns. And so, we know people as work colleagues and we know them in the job they do, right? And you never know what someone's life story is. So, for example, we had a presentation we did at a company, and we always say, here's the list of organizations and programs we support if you want to learn more about any of those. So one of the folks who was actually a manager at one of these companies came up after and he said that he wanted to tour the Salvation Army's family shelter, which we fund. So arranged that, and he came to the shelter, and I was there, and he did the tour. And at the end of the tour, he said, "Now I'll tell you why I wanted to see this. My family was homeless many times when I was a child.
Oh, wow.
And we were in New York City, and we didn't stay in places that were like this.
Wow.
So I wanted to see for myself what you're supporting in this community, because now I'm going to support United Way because I see what's happening." Another example, we have someone who's very involved with us. Her dad worked a carrier. 39 years he gave to United Way as a carrier employee, because carrier has been connected to us for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when she was 29, living her life, she had a job, friends, an apartment, and had her plan. She started seeing spots. And so she went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Monica," because she would be happy to have you know her name, "you're going to go blind from your type 1 diabetes. And I'm so sorry, there's nothing we can do about it." And so 6 months later, she was completely blind. She sees no light of any kind.
My goodness.
So she stopped working, moved in with her parents, and Monica will tell you that she thought her life was over. She thought blind people can't do anything. So she would listen to television. She'd sit at home listening to television. And then, thankfully, she heard about programs we fund at Aurora of Central New York, another one of these wonderful human service agencies we have in this community. So she went to independent living skills classes to learn how to move about the world independently as a blind person. Well, that was 15 years ago. She has an apartment that another agency we fund helped her find. She has her own company called Vision with No Sight, and she goes and gives the most inspirational talks to people to help them realize you can overcome challenges. She'll tell you how grateful she is for the life she has, and she actually just became an employee of Aurora of Central New York, so she's actually doing peer support groups. So she is an amazing human being, and she tells people, "My dad paid it forward for the services he didn't know his daughter would receive." So we want to make sure that people in the community have help when they need it. And often folks think about money, right? So being in financial need.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly, we've and CenterState has done an amazing job of acknowledging, and our county executive, poverty, right? His PI agenda, P is for poverty. So we certainly aren't shying away from the fact that we as a community have that challenge, and yet need is so much more. And so we want to make sure the parents who are told their child has a disability and have no idea what to do, right?
Yeah.
We want to make sure those supports are there. So in that way, we partner with businesses, because anyone in our community could find themselves in need of some sort of human service. And that's what we want to make sure those programs are here to serve. And then the other way we partner, which is really exciting, is to bring people together around the big issues we face as a community. So, for example, literacy.
Mm-hmm.
So 15 plus years ago, we as a community realized that whether we were talking about children or adults, literacy levels here were lower than many other parts of the state. And so folks came together to say, let's all think about this together, right? We don't need another nonprofit. We need everyone to come to the same table and really think about how we address this, right? So the business community came together, the funding community, the county, the city. And so the Literacy Coalition of Onondaga County was born.
Mm-hmm.
We're proud to be the home of that. But the goal is that everyone's part of it, right? And so we have funders. The county is the biggest funder. And then the Central New York Community Foundation, the city gives us funds, as well as private individuals. But if you have a child under 5 in this county, in Onondaga County, you're probably receiving a free book in the mail every month for your child through the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, which the county funds, and some others. But the county's the largest funder for sure.
Yes, my two kids definitely did until they were 5. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And so
that was
they're
amazing.
developmentally appropriate. They're
Mhm.
perfect. The goal is to have families read together.
Yeah.
And then we're also looking at adults as well. So I want to acknowledge the person who was in this role prior to me, Frank Lazarski, really had the vision to see that United Way could be the home of these community collaborations.
Mhm.
We've been the home of the Early Childhood Alliance, which became its own nonprofit in January. We're really proud of having been the home till it was really its own nonprofit.
Yeah.
It was big enough. And that, again, was our community realizing so many kids across the community were getting to kindergarten and they weren't ready. And we had to think together about how can we be sure kids are getting ready?
Yeah.
So they're successful from day one, right? Because if they're not succeeding by 3rd grade, they're going to always struggle.
Yeah.
And that's not okay. And then, of course, there's Work Train, which we are extremely proud to be part of with CenterState and a funding community that has come together around it. And really the brilliant, amazing team at CenterState had a vision. We're proud to fund it still. And we are the fiscal home. And CenterState, that needs to be its own podcast to talk about Work Train. But I think that the most important thing is that that's a perfect example of the business community and the philanthropic community and community members, community voice come together to say, we have companies that need employees. We have people who are either or underemployed, right? As an example, all the families who are struggling paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. How can we help people get the training in the things that interest them, right? Give them the skills they need, remove barriers that are in the way. So Volunteer Lawyers Project, so many partners, EOC, Educational Opportunity Center, and then help people secure jobs for which they are prepared. They have supports. And honestly, looking at folks in our community who've been historically excluded from many types of opportunities. So looking at really the systemic issues that have really precluded folks. They've been left out, left behind. And then really thinking about how do we create a more robust workforce. So many people with abilities were not able to use them in ways we all need. Businesses need people with skills and talent. And so many folks with talent weren't able to use their skills. And so, we were proud to use a state grant to be the first $500,000 as pathways to apprenticeship. And so many things have come out of it. So one of the things we, I think, have been proud to do with the other funders is put some seed money in so that these great ideas can come to life. And then the team at CenterState, in the example of Work Train, has done an incredible job of working with the Walsh administration, the McMahon administration, to bring millions of dollars to this community and change businesses and change people's lives by offering opportunities.
Absolutely. We didn't talk exclusively about Work Train, but we had Dominic Robinson, our Senior Vice President of Inclusive Growth, and Amy Durfee, our Vice President of Workforce Innovation. They were in our February episodes.
Oh, I have to listen.
So they did talk a little bit, particularly in the lens of like workforce development, growth, Micron, those kind of things. But, you did a great job just now of really talking about the Work Train Collaborative. And it's those types of partnerships. It's funny, I think about the organizational ethos of the United Way and CenterState, and it's very similar. It is about bringing people together, convening, creating those opportunities to together we can do more. We can, it's like there's just so much more opportunity when we're collaborating in that way. And we love the partnership and wouldn't be able to do many of the things that we've been able to do without United Way there with us in that.
Well, I think it's good to invest in good ideas. So
absolutely.
We love being part of good ideas.
Well, we'll be back to continue our conversation, and I'm really looking to talk more about maybe the greatest challenge and greatest opportunity. That's a little plug for that. But first, here's a note from our presenting sponsor of Talk CNY, NBT Bank.
Every day at NBT Bank, we focus our business around all the ways we can help yours. We're large enough to offer leading business and digital solutions, but local enough to ensure personalized one-on-one service. So turn to NBT Bank for a full range of business solutions, like capital and treasury management services, even fraud protection, and see how NBT Bank is just the right size to help you do big things. Visit nbtbank.com to learn more and start a conversation. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
This is Talk CNY. We're continuing our conversation with United Way's Nan Eaton. And Nan, when we think about the growth that is inevitable for us, right? We've used that word before on this podcast, inevitability. What is our greatest challenge? And then what's our greatest opportunity as it relates to that?
I think the greatest challenge is a bundle of things that we've known and that I think have been multiplied many times over because of this growth that is happening. And certainly, Micron takes it to a new level, but I do want to acknowledge people have been working super hard and many wonderful things were happening. So I think we have to think about making sure that we seize this opportunity, this challenge of our poverty, housing issues, transportation, right? Those are the challenges that I think this time we can meet this moment, as people have said, and really ensure that we're offering everyone an opportunity to benefit from these things. It is hard work. And I've heard I heard Dave Cavaney on this, talking about what that means in terms of the whole community. But I do think that when we think about the investments being made and the opportunities, Micron is helping us come together. We have now a youth collaborative that's done STEM from Dance, which is so exciting. 2 performances in August by girls who had an opportunity, Black and brown girls who had an opportunity to combine these wonderful things. And we're looking at childcare and how can we really think about changing a system that has needed change for a long time. So I think that the challenges, in a way, are also the opportunities. And let's stop being the community that has the most children living in poverty for any city over 100,000. Let's change that dynamic. That's an old story.
Yeah.
And I think we can change it to a new community story where rebirth and it happens right here.
I love that.
Yeah, that is wonderful. And for anyone listening who's thinking, well, goodness, I want to get involved. I want to be part of this positive thing that's happening. How can someone get activated? What could a person do?
Well, I talked about sharing time. So we're very proud to offer a platform, volunteercny.org. You can go there and any nonprofit can list opportunities. So not just the work we do, which we say we're in the people business, but any nonprofit can list opportunities. So you can go to volunteercny.org. It's a really easy site to use. You can also follow us on social media because then we'll let you know what's happening and the types of things. We, of course, use the money folks entrust to us very carefully and strategically. So if you go to our website, unitedway-cny.org, you can certainly make a donation or give us a call, and we'd love to connect and talk about the different types of work we do, and maybe there's a particular passion for you. And then the other I would say is that you can also support some of the real, I think, sort of hands-on, very wonderful opportunities like book buddies. So we're very excited to partner with the Syracuse City School District. We have our community education director, Lori Black, who's amazing. And we have volunteers work one-on-one with kids, kindergarten through 3rd grade at 3 city schools right now, but we're hoping to expand. So it's a great partnership with the city school district. And so folks could learn more about being a book buddy. And if you have an hour, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and you want to have one-on-one time, you read with one child for 30 minutes and another child for 30 minutes. And
that's great.
Yeah.
It's a real seeing them make their progress and be so proud and helping them just get over that hump is a very special thing.
I know there are people on our staff here that participate in that and absolutely love the program, but volunteer your time, donate, learn more about the programs and the opportunities that are there and get involved. It's
Yeah.
great.
And I'll tell you, we have companies, we have a lot of these real young solopreneurs or entrepreneurs. You don't have to do a workplace campaign.
Mm-hmm.
You can connect with us in other ways. So, we're the new United Way
I love it.
in this new time in Central New York, and folks can get involved in whatever way works for them.
Great. Man, thank you so much for your time today. Really important and amazing stuff. And thank you for the partnership.
Well, thank you. I'm proud to be on the board of CenterState.
Wonderful. Thanks.
CenterState CEO's podcast, Talk CNY, is presented by NBT Bank and is available on clickcny.com and all major podcast platforms. After each episode, you can join us on Click, where we'll continue to chat about this topic and provide additional resources and links. In Click, you can also listen or watch every episode in the Talk CNY series. Click is CenterState CEO's digital chamber platform, where our members connect, learn, and receive support from our staff.
For new episode reminders every other Wednesday, be sure to subscribe in your favorite listening app. If you're enjoying Talk CNY, consider leaving a review or a 5-star rating.